Hey, good people, welcome and welcome back to Freedom with Frida. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Fridah Nguku, and this is the best space for you. So, subscribe and join the family. Communication, very essential skill in our life that we all need to be better at every single day. Like, just strive every single day to do better when it comes to communication, because I feel like it's one of the things that one of the skills that we use a lot. Like at some point in a day you'll communicate, either you'll make a call, or maybe you'll buy something online so interact with someone, or maybe you'll go on social media and make a post, or whatever it is, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, whether you're a business person, whether you're employed. Communication is everywhere. Now, this communication comes back into verbal. It could be gestures, it could be just a post on social media. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're trying to communicate something. And I'm here to talk about communication because as an entrepreneur, I face so many customers every single day who I feel like if we had better communication skills, then life would be easier. Businesses would run smoothly. And I don't know whether this is an African thing or a Kenyan thing, because I've interacted with Wazungus and somehow their kind of communication is totally different from us. These guys are very open. They speak up their mind. They say as is. They don't try to cover up. And I feel like we were brought up in situations or in life, and we are told to be very careful what you say, which is very good. Be very careful what you tell people. And now through that, it was a good way of communicating. It was a good way of our parents ensuring that we don't just say mean things to people. But now this one protected even the things we need to say. So we found ourselves in a situation where you want to say something but you can't, because how will this person take it? All right, you want to express your feelings but you can't, because you're so afraid of hurting people. And I feel like it comes with growing up, because I was one person who would go mute and not really respond to you when I feel I need to say something, or when I feel like I'm disagreeing on something. But where I am, I have learned to just disagree to agree. I have learned to be very open. I have learned to say no, and I've also learned to say yes. Now, when it comes to business, let me get into the business life, because man, if you don't communicate well as a buyer or a seller, things can go wrong. Now, there are this kind of people who are buyers. They are buyers who will ask you for something. Let's get onto wallpapers, because that's what I sell. So you sell, Frida, you sell wallpapers? Yes. How much is it? 1,500 per roll. Okay. So I have this space. Maybe you could tell me how much it's going to cost me, and then you tell them it's going to cost you 8K, and then they go mute. And then you're like, oh, hi, anything you'd like to order? Then they just don't want to respond. They don't pick your calls anymore. Perfectly okay to feel like Frida is too expensive. Maybe you expected it to be 2K. I somehow really respect customers who tell me you're too expensive, right? I really somehow respect them, because the next question I ask them is, expensive compared to what? Because sometimes people are not comparing you to another brand, or they're not comparing you to another product. They're actually comparing you to what they had in mind, right? They're comparing you to what they had in mind. For example, people would think, since everyone is nowadays just doing wallpapers in their houses, maybe it's cheap, maybe it's very easy to just install. So when you tell them 1,500 per roll, and then you tell them a wall will take 3 rolls, that will cost them around 4,500 to buy and install. Then they're thinking, maybe they thought, I should just put 1,000. It should be at most 2K on my wall. So when they tell you you're very expensive, sometimes ask them compared to what. So that all normally is what follows when people tell me you're too expensive, compared to what. Now, when such a thing comes, that's a client who actually has something in mind, and they want to talk. They want to somehow get to understand why you're charging 4K and not 2K. And there are those who, you explain compared to, they'll tell you, there are those who will go mute, and then there are those who will be like, compared to maybe this product, or compared to what I thought it's going to be 2K. And then now you can explain, I'm charging this because it's quality, you're going to get value for your money, because there's a glow of that wallpaper, because installation takes me 1 hour to install a roll. So sometimes when you explain this to a client, they actually get it and they're like, okay, it actually makes sense. Now, there's this lot of clients who get the quotation like it's 30K, and in their mind it was going to be 10K, and they go mute. And you try to speak to them and they still go mute. And I feel like we as Kenyans, we as Africans, we as human beings need to learn to speak up and say, oh, 30K, okay, I actually expected it to be 10K, so my budget right now is 10K, so 30K is a little bit too high for me, so maybe next time. All right? That is a very simple way of saying, I don't have the finances right now, or I'm not able to get to that point. And what happens in such a scenario is, like for me, I get to understand, oh, so your budget is 10K. Yeah. Now, what I do is I try to understand where you're coming from. Why did you come up with the 10K? Because sometimes it could be someone lied to them. Wallpaper is actually 500, Bob. So try to understand how they came up with the 10K. And most of the clients who actually end up interacting with me during that heated conversation, they actually end up buying. Because this means you get to understand them, you get to explain to them, and then they get to, it's not like they didn't have the 30K, it's just they did not understand why 30K, not 10K. So they might actually end up taking the 30K. So my urge to people who are buying out there is, when you get a quotation, don't just go mute. If you had something in mind, then tell them, hey, you're selling your paper at 1,500 and someone I know is selling it at 1,000, Bob. Why would I buy from you and not the other person? But when you go mute and they try to reach out and you don't get back, then there's a barrier in your communication, and you never know, tomorrow you might want to speak to this person. How would you approach them when they spoke to you and you went mute? So I feel like growing up, and if you get to a point where you get to interact with people, we need to learn to speak up. We need to learn to say, that is not within my budget. And by the way, saying it's not within your budget doesn't mean you're broke. It doesn't mean you're poor. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean, I don't know whether we fear being seen as broke or being seen as poor, but it's okay to say, hey, that is not on my budget. The same way you tell people, hey, I have not planned for that. It's the same way you need to tell people, that is not my budget, or I don't have money for a wall mirror, I have money for a wallpaper. But communication is key, man. Communication is key. And you, as a seller, you need to also learn to understand where people are coming from as a buyer. Because sometimes when a buyer says you're too expensive, you as a seller, you run so fast and be like, oh, so they think I'm expensive because they have compared me with someone else. Imagine sometimes they've not even compared you to anyone else or any brand or any product. They've just compared you to what they thought. So try and understand, you're comparing me to who? When people say you're too expensive, they have a mind of something that is cheaper. So try to understand whether that thing is a brand, another brand, or that thing is another business, that thing is another product, or that thing is just a conception. What? Conception? No. Just a thought they had, a belief they've grown knowing. And try to understand them so that now you know how well you can communicate to them and how well you can offer your services or products to them. That is my ad. That just learn to speak up. This silence because someone is trying to reach out, I just feel like it's wrong. It's really wrong, and you wouldn't want someone to also go mute on you. It's okay to say, I was just asking because I wanted to know how much it will cost me so that I can plan for it. Or I was just asking it's just curiosity. I wanted to know how much wallpapers would cost me for a room. So maybe later in life I'll consider. That's okay. But now when you go mute, man, it says a lot about you as a person. It says a lot about you and your maturity. And I just feel like we need to learn to speak up. Just speak up. Just say no. Just say I can't do this. Just say it's not possible for me now. Just say it's not what I thought. Just say you're expensive compared to a wallpaper I bought you wear. It's just okay to say that. And you, as a person that is getting that feedback, learn to accept that. Learn to listen. Learn to understand. Because without communication, man, nothing would go go on, nothing would happen. I mean, tell me of one thing that really moves that does not need some sort of communication. Zero. Even sometimes you communicate to yourself. Anyway, guys, so I hope we just try and better ourselves when it comes to communication, both as a seller or as a buyer. Say what you want, and then accept to hear and listen from people who want to speak up their mind. Life would be really easy. Stay positive, stay focused, and see you in my next video.